graduated from Liberty North. He joined the Army, and he's doing exceptionally well, and he's doing fine with that. So since his class, I came over here because of my experience in Afghanistan. I've been asked to come back every year, and I love doing this, and I love sharing my experience with you. The last class that I just left, she goes like, Miss Zig?
Yeah.
Zig, right? She was like, every time I hear you talk about this, she goes, I hear something new. She goes, it's awesome. I'm like, well, that's good, because that will ensure you guys keep asking me to come back. So I was in Afghanistan from 2009 to 2012. I was a contractor in Afghanistan working with the Afghan National Police. First 2 years I was there, I worked with the Afghan National Police and trying to teach police chiefs on how to be democratic leaders of law enforcement. And I will say it was a waste of time. Okay, and we'll get into it a little bit. Yeah, it was quite the experience. I will tell you personally, I grew out of that experience. And then the third year I was there, the second year I was there, I worked with the Family Response Unit, and I worked with investigators investigating crimes against women and children, gender rights violations, and human rights violations. And then the third year I was there, I did a lot of security. So I did a lot of convoy security and a lot of executive protection. Everything from taking our people to the airport so they can fly back to see their family, to protecting ambassadors from somewhere in the world who thought it was a really good idea to visit a police station in the middle of Afghanistan where they didn't belong. Yeah, so I hated protecting people who I felt like they didn't deserve my life, but that was part of the job. So the questions that I have on this presentation were questions that were brought to me from the first senior class that I did this for, and so that's what we're going to base this off of. But if you have any questions at any time, feel free to ask. And at the end, we'll have a little bit of time to ask questions. So, how did I stay in touch with people back home? Man, how many of you use Skype? Is that still a thing? I think they actually changed it. It's like Microsoft Team now or something
Oh, it's
like
not
that.
a thing anymore? Wow.
How many of you use FaceTime? Yeah, FaceTime. But I had internet service, I had text messaging, even though it cost 25 cents a text message. Could you imagine? How many text messages do you send in a day, let alone a month? It's like tens of thousands of text messages a month. But it cost me 25 cents every time I sent a text message. So as you can imagine, I didn't send a whole lot of text messages. But we had internet services. Now, in some areas in Afghanistan, I might have had internet service, but no running water. It's a little off, right? Yeah, I think so. I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Living conditions. This is year one when I lived in Afghanistan. This room right here, we had 8 guys living in. And every time we get bombed and stuff like that, all the ceiling tiles like this would pop up like 8 inches and then come back down, and everything would come falling on top of us, and we'd have to get our gear on and run outside. But this is our bathroom. Okay, here's our sink, our toilet, our shower. Right next to the water heater and the electrical box.
Oh, nice.
What do you see as a problem with that?
Everything.
Yeah, we killed 3 contractors over there because they were electrocuted when they were taking a shower. Yeah. It was a shocking experience. So every time you go, how many of you watch Parks and Rec? Okay, when Chris Pratt's character says, "Oh, we call that little Sparky," the open wire, the bare wire in the shower. Ron Swanson goes in there and he fixes it. That's what that reminds me of. But yeah, that was like, it was scary to take a shower.
Ray says you just wouldn't shower.
No.
Ew.
Okay, but that's.
Just do it in the sink.
Yeah. Well, I'm still here. 3 years worth of showers there. But that was our first year living conditions. Toward the end of my first year, I got to move into a single room. Oh, it was awesome. I loved having my own room. And you see how clean it is?
Yeah.
That's actually how I am. We had room inspections because some guys didn't really pay attention to the electrical sources, and they would daisy chain multiple electrical items, and they would have hot pots in there and stuff like that. Well, if you know anything about electricity, when you overload a circuit, it will melt, catch on fire, and actually, this building caught on fire because of that. And it's funny because the sheriff of Clay County, he was over there with me, and we just moved to this compound, and we I mean, I was tired, it was at the end of the day, it was really late. He starts banging on my door, and I yell, "What?" He goes, "Will, the building's on fire." And I go, "What?" Well, I looked, and it was filled with smoke, and it was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, the shower, same setup, okay, just like this.
Great.
Even in this room right here. But it was nice, I liked it. Year 2, this is my living quarters. This is my house. This is my living room. This is my bedroom. This is my washing area. Can you see it? Yeah, that was my bunk. That's where I lived at. That's what I washed my clothes in, right here. And this is me doing laundry. This is where I hung up my clothes after I washed them. I just hang it off the springs on top of the bed underneath me. Man, life was so simple. Have you ever washed clothes by hand?
Yeah.
You just sit there. This is the tent that we lived in, where this was at. I think there were probably 12 of us in there. We had a lot of space. We had lots of tents out there. You can see them kind of lined up right here. But this was our shower facility. 2x4s and plywood. Now, keep in mind, you look at the mountains in the background, this is the Himalayan mountains that we're in, the tail end. So we're at 8,000 feet. The mountains in the background are about 10 to 12,000 feet. So it's really cold out there. And so, right here, not too bad. But during the winter time, and we're gonna see some pictures of winter time, how do you think I took a shower then? No running water. We had internet services. I would take a case of water in the night before, and I'd put it in our tent to let it thaw out. And then the next day, I'd take 6 bottles of water with me. I'd line it up on a 2x4. I'd uncap all of them. I would take the first bottle of water, take a deep breath, and wet myself down. Okay, and then I take shampoo and I wash myself, and then 5 more bottles of cold water, dump it, dump, to wash everything off. That's how we took showers. We eventually got a water system set up. The Air Force flew in, and they set it up. Their Air Force was awesome. Gosh, if you're ever thinking about the military, Air Force should be their #1 choice, if you can. Navy second. This is what I told all 3 of my boys. Air Force first, Navy second, Army third. They asked me, "Dad, well, what about the Marines?" I said, "God bless the Marines, I just don't want you to be one." And now there's Space Force. Stay tuned. So this is second year. Third year, I got to move back into a hotel-like complex. It was black mold, red mold, I mean, it was just disgusting. I lived in a Connex container. So, let's see, right about that area of the hotel, that's where I lived at. This is the Connex container I lived in. 7 months after I left this compound, a truck, an 18-wheeler with 5,000 pounds of explosive parked right next to the wall and detonated and blew off the entire side of the hotel, this room, and blew my Connex container off of its foundation from right here.
Well, can you explain to them real fast what a Connex container is?
Have you ever seen like a shipping container that, that are on those large shipping, the ships, and they put those containers up? That's a Connex container.
So when he says hotel, he's actually talking about.
Yeah, I lived in a shipping container. This building right here was actually like a tin shed. What are they called, like out in the country? Pole barn, yeah. So that's what that was, but all these right here are shipping containers. Now, they were really nice shipping containers. We had air conditioning, they were single room living quarters, they had a bathroom with the same setup. I mean, they were really nice. But yeah, I lost 6 friends that day. They were all killed. Question?
You said 5,000 pounds.
5,000 pounds of explosive. I mean, the guard tower that they parked next to was obliterated, and it blew the entire side of that hotel complex off. All these shipping containers were blown off the foundation, and I was in that one right there. Had I been there. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a huge believer in that. I wasn't there that day. What was the military's relationship with with the Afghan people? It was cordial. Every time we'd show up, the first thing they would ask is, "What did you bring me?" I mean, because what did they have? anything. So when we showed up dressed like how we were, and we came time and time again giving them stuff, they just became accustomed to it. We would bring them computers. What are they gonna do with a computer if they don't know how to use it? 90% of the country's illiterate. So they can't even use a computer, but they still want them. Why? They can sell them. They can sell them, and they can take the cash, and they can buy things with it, like food, fresh water. We'd have these fancy meetings where everyone would come together, and they would all tout themselves to be really important, and blah, blah, blah. But we would always try to bring medical supplies, stuff for the kids, and this little girl right here. What can you tell me about this picture? What does this picture look like to you? Huh?
I was being sarcastic.
Sarcasm's good. What does that picture tell you? How do you interpret that picture?
They don't get a lot of food over there.
They don't get a lot of food.
Simple things matter.
Simple things matter. This little girl was happy that she got a sucker, let alone 2. I always brought candy with me because when the kids were around me, I knew I wasn't gonna get shot or blown up. Because the villagers, they didn't really want to kill their own kids. So I would always be like, hey kids, come on. Hang out with me, I don't care about those other guys. Here's some candy. But she was happy that she got 2 suckers. There was another little girl in that village that didn't even know what a sucker was. She didn't even know how to eat it. Right? We had to show her. Simple things. But they treated us good for the most part. We trained them. Yeah.
Did you have any? I can't remember what the movie was. I think it was Hurt Locker, where like they were negotiating with the guy with the cow, and like a bomb killed their cow. Did you have any experience like that, where the guy was like probably lying, but you had to give him something anyway?
Oh gosh, all the time. They would crash into us and say that we crashed into them because they knew they would get paid. I have a picture. It's not on here, but we were in a Humvee going from Kabul, Afghanistan to Bagram Air Force Base, and the road that we would take we called IED Alley. And there were little kids out there with shovels, and they would help the Taliban cover explosives in the roadway. And then they would act like, I just helped you by fixing the road, give me money. And so whenever we'd see a hole, we'd have to drive around it. We would never drive over it. But we almost hit a camel. Like I was recording, I was like, man, this is crazy. And all of a sudden, I saw that corner of my eye. I go, camel! And this camel like runs up, and we almost nailed the camel. Camel was like $25,000 if we ran over a camel. Yeah. The price tag on my head was 15. So camel was far worth more than I was. But yeah, that happened to us all the time. Sheep, even dogs, right? We're gonna talk about dogs here in a little bit, but they were worth a lot of money if you killed one of their dogs. And they didn't even domesticate them. So, when we trained with the Afghan National Police, we brought them into our compound. It was kind of like a basic training, like a basic police academy training. But we didn't trust any of them. No. Oh yeah, we didn't trust them because it wasn't because we didn't trust them as individuals, although we don't know who they are, we don't know what their intentions are, but they have family members. And so even for someone who works for the Afghan National Police, if they love their country and they want to do what's right for their country, they have families. And so as the Taliban, I'm gonna go to you, okay, you work with the Americans, and I'm gonna bring a vest. Say, hey, you're gonna wear this vest to work tomorrow because I know you work with the Americans. You guys know what a vest is? With explosives, okay? What are you gonna tell them?
You can't really just.
All right. You're gonna say yes. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna give your family $15,000. If you say no, what do you do?
They're gonna kill your family.
Yeah, they're gonna kill you and your family right there. That's a lose-lose situation. I mean, at least your family get 15 grand, but you die tomorrow. Right? So that's why we didn't trust them. We helped them out as much as we possibly could, though. And they appreciated it. They really did. How was I treated by Afghan people? Did I feel welcome there? So, again, kids, right? This day, I only had gum. But man, they were like, gum? What's that? How come it's not ending? And they, smiles on their faces. I was good to go. How many of you know what threading is?
Like,
Okay, yeah, your expression, right? Was threading fun? It hurt. Well, they wanted to do it to me, and I was like, all right, I didn't know what threading was. I had these crazy hairs that grew up right here, and they start threading, and I was like, oh my gosh, this hurts. My eyes were all watery and stuff. Here I am, big bad contractor over there, and I'm like crying. But what do you think I was doing by allowing them to immerse me in their culture and the things that they did?
like creating relationships with those people.
Creating relationships, right? Building those relationships. When you build relationships, what comes with it is a byproduct? Trust. Yeah, so when I would go into villages, my Afghan interpreters, this is one of them, Jamira, and Feroza right here, they would tell me, because I didn't speak the language, when I'm going into a village, they saw what was going on, and they would tell me, Mr. Will, we need to turn around. Something's not right. You think I'm gonna go, you don't know what you're talking about. No, it was a and then go away. But it was building that trust. And then, I mean, my eyes look like they're still watery, right? After getting threaded, they put henna on my hand. I would never allow them to put henna on my arms or on the back of my hands, because that was the safety for them, because they would know that I'm working with Afghans, all right? But if they offer henna, have you ever had henna done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's like, over there, that's like, whoa, you're asking me to do henna on me? Heck yeah. But I would let them put it on the palm of my hands, because usually I had gloves on, or if I didn't have gloves on, they were wrapped around a rifle, so nobody could see it. This little boy, he was watching me try to clean my hand off and henna, and he was just like, you're doing it wrong. So he goes over, he grabs my hand, he starts cleaning it, and he was having a grand old time. And I'm like, yeah, it's building trust, building those relationships. So they treated me well. My Afghan interpreters were all female. And I'm gonna talk about them here in a little bit, but I took care of them. Like if they needed money or something like that, like if they needed food, I'd give them money. I mean, I'd help them out as much as possible. I actually trusted them. And the reason why I trusted them is because they were involved in things like, you know, bullets hitting our truck, and they were there. They came back to work the next day. So that was really awesome. Here's some additional questions. Was it hard for me to adjust to the U.S. lifestyle after I came back home? Spent 3 years in Afghanistan. I take little breaks in between, but what do you think? Life is not the same over there. You know, I remember one time I came back and I was visiting one of my old partners. I called her Sis. It was in South Bend, Indiana. And we were following another cop car, and we were going to somebody else's house because I hadn't been in the States for a while. And she goes over a speed bump in an apartment complex. And I freaked out. I grabbed the door, my heart starts racing. She goes, what? And I had to calm myself down. Well, for me in Afghanistan, speed bumps meant IEDs, because it was a choke point. We had to slow down. And there was a technique that you would go over a speed bump at the same time. Like the vehicle in front of you, when they would go over, you would speed up, and your front wheels would go over the same time as their back wheels. And then you would go over, then you could accelerate at the same time and go away. Well, she wasn't doing that. And I was a truck commander, and when she wasn't doing that, I was getting ready to light her up. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? But then I caught myself. So little things like that. It was hard for me to readjust, but you know, does it ever go away? No, I just manage it better. I'm glad the nightmares have stopped, right? That's always a plus. Let me see, any customs that I witnessed in Afghanistan that I took home with me? No, but heck no. That is just a different world over there. There is nothing that I wanted to bring back home from that country. But that's just me personally. Did I notice any pets in people's homes? No, there were not a whole lot of pets. They didn't really care about animals over there. We had a little puppy over here. We had puppies on our compound, on our combat outpost, because they served as early warning devices. If bad guys were sneaking around the outside of our walls, and if our guard guys didn't see them, the dogs would go crazy, and then that would draw our attention. But then the Army said you can't have animals inside the combat outpost because they had diseases, and they, you know, if they bit one of us, then we'd be jacked up. So we had to take all the animals off of our compound and dispatch them. You guys know what dispatch means? Yeah, That sucked. I couldn't do it, because I love animals. But, okay, so combat situations, again, 3 years in Afghanistan, bound to see one, right? This guy right here, I attribute to saving my life. When I went out to our combat outpost, the helicopter swooped in, landed, dust everywhere, they threw all of our stuff out, me and my 2 partners jump out, and the helicopter takes off, dust settles, and there are no American assets around. Yeah, I'm like, what the? All of a sudden, cresting the hill are 10 Afghans in Afghan garb with carrying AK-47s. And I'm like, okay guys, I looked at my 2 partners, I said, we're leaving all of our stuff here. We're gonna run about a mile this way and about 6 miles that way. We were 7 miles away from where they were supposed to drop us off at. So our selector levers go on fire. Nothing's happening. They don't even raise their AK-47s. And my brain's going a million miles an hour. I'm thinking, what the heck, we're about to get into a firefight. And then they continue to walk down towards us. I'm like, okay, something's not right. So I yell, Salam alaikum. And they're like, Salam alaikum. What's up, guys? Okay, but we don't have any interpreters. I'm just thinking in my mind, that's what they're saying. Long story short, they loaded us up in their trucks and they took us to the compound where we were supposed to be dropped off at. He's the Afghan National Police commander of that area. The reason why he wasn't wearing his uniform is because that's a heavily Taliban-controlled area, and they didn't want them to be known as police because then they place themselves in danger. Because had he not been there when we got dropped off, we would have had to go 7 miles through Taliban-controlled area. What was the most important thing that I learned while I was there? Was enjoy the small things, like that little girl holding 2 suckers up. Life is too fragile. You know, the things that we worry about here in our country are truly first world problems. I mean, could you imagine not having fresh water? And you had to drink dirty water? What comes with dirty water? All kinds of gut problems. And then you ultimately die from it. Okay, that's what I took back. My son asked me, he's actually a freshman here at Liberty North now, but when I think he was in 5th grade, he asked me, he's like, Dad, he goes, I want a MacBook. Right, those are the expensive ones, the Airs or whatever. And I was like, what? Why do you need a MacBook or whatever the Apple computer was? It's like $2,500. And I was like, what do you need that for? And he goes, because I can play games better on that instead of my, the little handheld device. I was like, what? Oh, it's like a Nintendo. Yeah, something like that. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, that's a first world problem. Okay, so no. Games. That's the most important thing that I took back. Every morning I wake up, it's a gift. Because over there, nothing ever good happened at nighttime. You know, I would be, gosh, does it suck that bad? You wanna leave? You guys have a great day. Oh, and caps, right on. I'll probably see you guys here in a couple months.
I know. Have fun, be careful driving.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So it's a gift. Every morning I get to wake up and live my life. I treat it as a gift. That's what I learned over there and coming back. Here's some of the geography. Beautiful canyons, castles that still exist from the 1800s when the British occupied Afghanistan. This is our view, 12,000 foot mountains. I took a picture of this because it's just a big tree, right? We use that as a landmark because there's not a whole lot of trees in Afghanistan. When the Russians occupied Afghanistan, they cut all the trees down and they used it for firewood. You know how Afghanis cook now? Even in the city? Okay, imagine living in a home, we'll just call it a home, and you have to go to the bathroom. So you walk outside into this little outhouse, take a poop, and everything gathers underneath this outhouse, and you, okay, this is your job, you reach in and you scoop it all out, like at the end of the week. Okay, you put some water on it, and you mix it with some hay, put it in little patties, and put it on your co-op wall, and you let it dry out. That's what you cooked your dinner with. That's what you warmed your homes with.
Wait,
So-
like now or like 50 years ago?
No, still today.
Oh.
Mom and Dad ain't doing it. You guys are. The kids, the teenagers. For military members, if you live in areas like that, it's an automatic 10% disability because you had to breathe the air. The air over there, they figured it out, is about 23% fecal matter.
Oh,
So you're breathing everyone's poop. Yeah. So yeah, it sucked, but man, we use that as a landmark. When we were doing a foot patrol through this canyon, and as we were walking, we heard this loud crack. Okay. Sometimes a firearm, a large caliber rifle, will sound like a crack, especially when you're in a canyon. So we all hit the dirt, hid behind rocks, and we're looking, we're scanning. Lo and behold, there's two massive rams fighting. Oh man, it was awesome to watch that in their natural habitat. So there were some positive experiences too. Some more geography. This mountainside right here, this is called Afghanistan. This is a city. One of the it's the biggest city next to Kandahar. This is me on a foot patrol with our army guys, an aerial shot. Here's some of my teammates when we lived in the combat outpost. Some of the elements, we talk about snow, right? Standing relatively in the same spot. This is our view in the summertime. This is our view in the wintertime. The first night it snowed out there, now keep in mind it's the tail end of the Himalayan mountains, right? 4 feet of snow.
No.
Man, that was just the first night, right? Man, I hate snow. I hate the cold. I'm a desert guy. So yeah. All right, so, do you have your books yet?
No.
No? Okay. You're gonna be reading this book, 1,000 Splendid Suns. It's like a successor, or there's a part 2 to the Kite Runner. Kite Runner was about 2 boys. 1,000 Splendid Suns is about 2 girls. And it talks about their life, multi-generational, right? Oh, you'll find out. And it just talks about the challenges and the things that happen in their lives as women. Kite Runner was about men. This book is about women and what they experienced and how they experienced it from, I think, the 50s, 60s to basically the early 2000s. The Taliban. Okay, so real quick history lesson. The Russians occupied Afghanistan from 79 to 89. After they left Afghanistan in 89, there was a period of time where it was just a lawless country. They were trying to figure out who was going to run Afghanistan. And ultimately, it ended up being the Taliban. Okay, the Taliban were ruthless, especially to women. And here's some pictures. Okay, again, everyone believing that they're important somehow. I still didn't trust any one of them, especially this guy right here. He was the Afghan National Police Chief that I had to work with, but he was also the warlord in that area. He just wanted, hey, what are you gonna give me? What are you gonna give me? Jerk. Look at this guy's face. And actually, this isn't a guy. It's about a 13, 14-year-old kid. What's this picture? What's this face show you? What does it tell you? Does he look like he wants us there? No, that is a look of hate. Look at these two guys right here. What do they have on their heads that no one else has? Masks. These two are Afghan National Police officers trying to hide their identity in this village. When I took this picture, I was like, something's not right. I went to the military team leader and I said, we can get the hell out of here. Something's not feeling right. He's like, you know what, you're right. Let's go. And on our way out, guess what happened? We got ambushed. We all made it safely back to compound. But that was the day that we never went back to that village, let alone do any missions inside vehicles. Everything else was on foot. Because when you're inside those MRAP vehicles, you can't see anything. When you're on foot, everything slows down, and you have a lot more time to see around you. So this is the Taliban, some of the pictures. So another question that came up was, what does discrimination look like in Afghanistan? Do we have discrimination here in the United States? Yeah, we do, unfortunately, especially during, different parts of the country. Now, I've moved 38 times in 44 years, lived in 10 states and 3 countries. Okay, I've been around the block a little bit. And I will tell you that there are some areas that are more discriminatory than other areas. I'm from California, the melting pot of society. When I was a cop in South Bend, Indiana, that was like taking a step back into the 60s. When police officers, black and white, were still dropping the N-word in briefing like it was a regular part of their vocabulary. This is Indiana, this is the North, right? Anyway, discrimination doesn't go off the color of your skin in Afghanistan because they're all dark complected, right? So discrimination over there happens with your facial features. Well, how facial features? Well, let's talk about that. If you split Afghanistan in half, your book, by the way, takes place here in Herat in the beginning and then ends in Kabul, okay? But if you split Afghanistan in half, the northern portion of Afghanistan is Tajik, and you're gonna read more about the Tajik people, Hazara. Everyone has Mongoloid features. Mongoloid being from Mongolia, you look more Asian. The southern portion, you look more Arabic. And that's how they would discriminate against each other. It was something that was completely fascinating to me because in my mind, in my life experience, I see discrimination based off of the color of our skin. There, everyone looks the same color, but it was off your facial features. It's crazy. Pashtun and Hazara, same thing. So Pashtun's in the south where the green's at, Hazara is up north. Religion. Have you ever heard of Shia and Sunni religions? What's the difference?
Like way back when Islam was like first created, the two people thought they were both prophets, and they kind of split off. Or one thought was like someone's brother, and the other one was like the successor, and so they split off and then had two like separate branches basically.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way of explaining it. Anyone else? Okay, so what is the big difference between Shia and Sunni in countries in the Middle East?
There's a lot more.
What's that?
There's a lot more one than the other.
Yes, but one's more dominating than the other, right? We see it in Iran, we see it in Afghanistan, we see it in Iraq. The only thing I can equate Shia and Sunni religions to is having like United Methodist and Southern Baptist shooting each other every time they saw each other, doing drive-bys on their churches. They do not like each other, like with extreme hate and violence. So it's not just, oh, okay, you're Methodist, hey, that's cool, you know, First Amendment, right? Do whatever you want, practice whatever religion you want. Over there, no, they're gonna kill you if they find out if you're the opposite religion. Okay, so here's a video clip, we're gonna run this real quick. Tell me what you see. What'd you see?
What was it?
A what? A woman. What else did you see?
Dead body.
A dead body, a child. So I don't know if that kid was dead or alive, but that was a woman, I presume. When we saw stuff like that, we could never stop and open our door to Red or Heat or help, because I don't know if that's a guy wearing a vest underneath that burqa. And so we would just drive on by. You're gonna learn in the book what happens to women who their husbands either leave them or they die, they get abandoned, and what happens to them. Well, if you're not attached to a guy, then you're out fending for yourself. She's out there begging for money, for anything, to help feed or water or something, right? But is that kid dead or alive? We saw that everywhere. You're treated, again, you're treated as third-class citizens if you're a woman in Afghanistan, even today. I remember seeing Toyota Corolla wagons and women with their faces plastered on the back glass of the back of the car because the sheep were more important to put in the back seat. The sheep had priority over you. If there was room, you could fit in the back. And they would just drive main streets of Cabo. So when we talk about gender roles and discrimination, that's what they face. Even today. How do women get free from their husbands? They don't? How can you get free?
And they die.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I heard several of you say, when you die, when they kill you. In my experience, how are women treated? Third-class citizens? What was my interaction with the families like over there? I interacted with kids and men, hardly ever women. My only interaction with women is when I worked for the Family Response Unit, worked with the investigators working crimes against women and children. And they were typically female investigators. But I'll say that when I would go to meetings involving Congress people, I had a congresswoman tell me to shut up when I was trying to brief the forum with all of my international counterparts, okay? Because it was wrong. I was trying to explain why it was wrong for a male police officer to rape his female counterpart. Not once, but twice. Same guy, same woman. And we would get reports. And so I was briefing out on that, and she told me to shut up. I was like, are you kidding me? What? Yeah, well, it helps when your husband is a general and your wife is a congresswoman, but do you think she had any control? No. The general controlled her. She didn't want to have anything to hear about it because then that would look bad on him. See how that plays out? Women had to wear burqas. Not all women. When I was over there, there were women that didn't wear burqas. But the ones that did wear burqas, you better not show any part of your skin, to include your ankles. Yeah, that was a big no-no. If you showed any part of your skin, you were gonna get beat, rest assured. During the Taliban era, if you showed any skin, you were probably executed in public right there, okay? You better not leave home without other women with you or a male counterpart with you. If you did, you would get beat right there on the street. Have I ever seen children and women get treated unfairly? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all the time. In fact, I left a police station one day, and all of a sudden I heard on the radio as I was approaching my compound, hey, is everyone out of PD 15? And I was like, what? To make a long story short, a teenage girl ran away with her boyfriend because she wanted to get away from her family, and he said, I'll take care of you. Let's run away together. Well, as you could imagine, he only wanted her for one thing, and once he got it, he was done with her, kicked her to the curb. Where was she gonna go after that? Well, yeah, she has nowhere to go. So she goes to the police station, because her family's already abusive. She goes to the police station for help. The police chief calls the dad, says, hey, your daughter's over here. He comes over, the police chief hands him his gun. He walks into the room, shoots her right in the head. It's a mercy killing. Man, with family like that, it means enemies. So yeah, they got treated differently a lot, all the time. But there is an upside to this story. So this is the Family Response Unit. Here's me. Here's the Sheriff of Clay County, the current Sheriff of Clay County. He's the reason why I'm over here in Clay County here today, because he brought me over here. He's actually retiring, and this guy's running for sheriff this year. So if any of you are voters. Okay, these are my
Blame on the upkeep today. That guy he's pointing to his hand. Crickets.
It looks like him up there. Yeah, I'm running for sheriff. Okay, these are my language assistants, my interpreters. They're all female. I forgot to say this to the last class. She was 23 at the time. She was 21, she was 18. She spoke 7 languages, 4 languages, and 3 languages. They were all high school graduates, 8th grade. Some of them went to college, university, 12th grade. Okay, I don't think she did. I lost track of Elmira. Feroza lives in California. Shakiba lives in New Jersey, I believe. So they actually made it to the States. But they were super smart. I mean, how many of you can say you spoke 7 languages, let alone 2? Or 2 languages, let alone 7? I trusted them with my life, because I don't know how many times I would be driving down the road into an area, and they say, Mr. Will, something's not right, we need to leave. So what do you think I did? Leave the other way. Or I'd be talking with the police chief, and I remember specifically Shakiba, she said, Mr. Will, they're talking crazy, you need to leave. Okay. Tell them, hey, we're done here, and we jumped into our trucks and we took off. So they always got me out of trouble. They were always looking after me. And I always looked after them. In fact, as you can see right here, they have scarves on. That was strategic, because when they were riding in the trucks with me, if we were to ever get hit, blown up, start, engaging enemy contact, I told them to wrap their faces and their heads and run away from me, and I'll provide cover fire so they can get away from me, but run into the crowd. Because I don't want them caught with me. Okay, I signed the dotted line. They did too, but they didn't sign up as somebody who's carrying a firearm. And if they were caught helping me, what do you think would happen to them? Yeah. So we looked out for them as much as we could. The food, I love Afghani food. It was so good. So this dish right here is called kabuli pulao. It was a mixture of rice, raisins, carrots, and I like sweet stuff, and it had like a sweet taste. It was so good. This was like a meat dish. I didn't know what kind of meat it was. Didn't really want to ask either. It just tasted good. And this dish right here, that white stuff, is cream based. Well, they didn't have a whole lot of refrigeration over there, so I stayed away from the cream stuff. Yeah, I never ate that. How many of you have heard of naan bread?
Ooh,
You like
yes.
naan bread? Oh, I love naan bread. You know what we called it over there? Foot bread. Because in the mornings when we drive down the street, the bakers, they were right there, the windows, you can see them doing everything they're doing, and they're standing up on the wall, and they're stepping on the bread, kneading it with their toes. We still ate it. It was good. Oh, yeah, when you put it in the oven, it burns away all the fungus. And, no, hey, look, on a serious note, their feet were more clean than their bodies were. Because they would always wash their feet. It's part of their religion. So yeah, we call it foot bread. We only ate where we trusted. So my language assistants, we would only send them out to get us food. Could you imagine an American going out to that part of the country and just be like, hey bro.
Teachers and students, at this time, please make your way to Eagle Avenue. It is our state send-off for all state band members. Please go to Eagle Avenue for a band send-off.
This is the bathroom where they wash dishes.
We can just stay in here.
Yeah, can we just stay?
We just stay.
If you want to.
Check it out.
Okay.
That was it. So, that was the bathroom where they wash dishes. This is the Ministry of Interior. This would be like our version of the Department of Justice. And this is the bathroom. Yeah, not very clean. That hose right there was used to not only wash dishes, but to wash your rear end after taking care of business. Okay, that was a lot of information. Any questions? Yes?
Do you still keep in contact with your partners?
Most of my partners came home. In fact, the last one that I kept in touch with came home last year. Yeah, and he was in country for 14 years.